It's a very common experience. Everybody experiences this. To go out into the world, to interact with the world in some way, either a person or a group of people or some kind of a company or some kind of a system, and then something goes wrong. You don't get what you expect. You don't get what you were promised from the system or the person. So you talk to somebody. You complain. You said, I was doing this and I was expecting this result, but I got this result instead. What can I do? And you will have found the truth of human nature, that nothing is ever anybody's fault. Everything is always somebody else's fault. This is incredibly frustrating. But this is not an indication of a character flaw. This is not an indication of a personality defect. This is the ego doing exactly what it is supposed to do. Remember, the job of the ego is to convince us to always maintain the belief that we belong in the top echelon of society. We deserve to be there, which means inside we have these beliefs that say, I am better than most people in the world. And in an ancient tribe of hunter-gatherers, the way we represented that, the way we proved that we were better, was by providing more value than anybody else. So on a very, very deep level, the prime directive of human life is to jack ourselves up the hierarchy as much as we can. And in order to do that, we need this belief that says, I belong in the top echelon of society. And we get there by providing more value to everybody in the world than everybody else. My ideas are more beneficial to the world than 80% of the people out there. My opinions are more insightful than 20 or 80% of the opinions out there. That's why I belong in the top. I provide more value to other people than 80% of other people. That's what we need to believe to keep our upward trajectory intact. So if you do something wrong, and you make a mistake, and you say, hey, I was trying to help people, but I hurt people instead because of my actions. That belief is the diametric opposite of our ego belief. Our ego belief says, I provide more value to other people than 80% of people. Therefore, because of the value I provide, I deserve to be in the top echelon of society. That's what our deep ego compels us to believe. We need to believe this no matter what happens in the outside world. So when we make a mistake, we will immediately reframe it so we actually believe we didn't make a mistake. It wasn't our fault, it was somebody else's fault. Now here's a deeper issue. Whenever we are with somebody who we acknowledge as being part of our Dunbar group, we will always have this shared belief. It's not our fault, it's somebody else's fault. These people in the Dunbar group, we watch out for each other. So if you have a persuasion target, if you have a sales target and they are saying things that make it seem like they're trying to shun responsibility, don't contradict them. Instead, validate their beliefs, validate their model of the world, and they will get this deep suspicion that you are part of their Dunbar group. Because if you validate their model of the world, like everybody in the same Dunbar group validates everybody else's model of the world, that it's not their fault, this will make you much more likely to get them to do what you want. Because when you acknowledge their model of the world, when you accept that everybody you see has the same wiring that says it's not my fault, and that is a healthy function of the ego, if you accept this about human nature and you validate people's mental maps, that will give them the deep subconscious signal that you are a member of their Dunbar group. And they will do anything to help you. A corollary to this belief, or a corollary to this instinct, this it's not my fault instinct, is the externalizing instinct. Imagine two cavemen out hunting. They both throw their spear at an animal. They both miss. One guy has the objective, rational response of, I'm not a good hunter. I keep missing when I try to kill something. I provide less calories than other people. Therefore, this person is not going to have a sense of agency, and they will be very, very unlikely to rise to the echelon of the upper 20%, and they will not replicate, and this gene, this objective gene, will not replicate. On the other hand, imagine a guy, same situation, throws a spear, misses the animal, but he doesn't accept responsibility. He blames that animal. It's not my fault, it's the animal's fault. That protects the integrity of his ego. That protects the integrity of his top 20% belief system, and that makes him angry at the animal. Now, in the modern world, this instinct doesn't work very much because we're not trying to kill the world and eat the world. We need to interact with the world and build relationships. So from a personal growth standpoint, you need to work on this instinct, this externalizing it's not my fault instinct. But from a persuasion standpoint, understand that whoever you're trying to persuade, they have instinct that say, one, it's not my fault, two, it's somebody else's fault. And if you accept this, if you validate this and say, of course it's not your fault, whose fault is it? And you kind of, I'm with you, it's their fault, they will feel a deep sense of rapport, and they will feel like you are part of their Dunbar group, and that will make them much more likely to buy whatever you're selling. Another interesting ego instinct that compels us up to the top 20% of society is this belief that my opinions are objectively true. Because the mechanism by which we jacked ourselves up the hierarchy was through these kind of conversations and idea contests. It wasn't just a hunting contest where everybody went out hunting and whoever brought back the biggest kill got up the ladder, because we had to hunt in teams. And if we hunt in teams, there needs to be a hierarchy. And whoever is the top of the hierarchy in these hunting teams is the guy who had the best ideas, the guy who was the most persuasive with his ideas, the guy that was the most certain that his ideas were true. And so we evolved an instinct to truly believe that our opinions are objectively true and everybody else's opinions are subjective. If you were trying to have an argument with your friends over what the best topping for pizza is, you thought it was pepperoni, your friend thought it was sausage, another friend thought it was mushrooms, another friend thought it was pineapples, it would be hard to convince yourself that pepperoni being the best topping was an objective truth. So you wouldn't be very strong in your argument that pepperoni is better than sausage. You would have this kind of understanding that these are all just different opinions. But if you could convince yourself somehow that your opinion is objectively true, you'd be much more confident when you present your opinion to the group, when you present your opinion to the world. If you believed your opinions were objectively true, you'd have zero doubt when you presented them. It would be like trying to convince somebody that 2 + 2 = 4. You would have zero doubt in your mind when you try to convince somebody or persuade somebody that 2 + 2 = 4. So we have this instinct that makes us believe that our opinions are objectively true. And when you look out into the world, everybody has this wiring. Everybody has this ego-supporting instincts. This is why it's a useless exercise. It's futile to try to convince somebody else that their opinions are wrong. That would be just as useless as trying to convince somebody that 2 + 2 does not equal 4. This is why it's never a good idea to prove you're right and they're wrong. On the other hand, just accept that whoever you talk to, a friend in your social circle, a romantic partner, a sales target, a persuasion target, whoever you talk to is going to have this wiring in their brain that says my opinions are objectively true. But here's a deeper point, a very powerfully persuasive point. We not only believe that our opinions are objectively true, but we believe it's our opinions that get us up into the 20% of society. It's the validity of our opinions. It's the value of our opinions that are evidence of why we should be in the top 20%. Because of the opinions we have, we deserve to be in that top 20%. So not only when you validate people's opinions as being objectively true as they think about them in their brain, but acknowledge that they think because of their opinions, they deserve to be in the top 20%. This will go a long ways in helping you persuade them to do whatever you want.